Welcome to FMA Talk Live. I'm your host, Datu Tim. This is my wonderful co-host.
PG Ties here. Welcome, everyone.
I hope everyone is having a great day. Interesting weekend. We did the WMA meeting, and unfortunately, we all forgot about it. Or all the people that needed to remember it, we didn't do too good. And when I say we, it really means me. A lot of things that are going on. So this coming weekend, there's a bunch of things happening. And I want to talk a little about that to start off. So one of the things here is we have postponed one of the events. The Canadian camp has moved to the fall, the Northern Ontario camp. Last minute schedule conflicts. So PG Craig will be hosting that. And we've got Rich Parsons saying hello from Flint, Michigan, as well as Terrell from the Metro DC area. How you guys doing?
Awesome. Master Rich and GM Terrell. Nice to see you guys.
Okay. But this weekend, the forces are out doing multiple things. So what do you got going, sir?
Should be, a great weekend. We're going to, PG Chad and myself and Coach Jeff Berger and Iron Tree Cully are going to do a camp. And some other high-ranking folks will be there. I think some other PGs will be there. People from all over the states. Anyway, we're doing our camp in Delmarva. So that's Hawkinson, Delaware.
And
Canada for 3 days. And this one's, I think, our first non-invitational. So basically, it's much more open. We've got some people from that'll be new to the camp. It'll be really good.
Nice. Okay, I'll do this. All right. Moving a couple things here. It was driving me crazy that my shirt was coming up backwards. So what happens when you got a logo on it and it's it's mirroring. So and then at the same time, Thursday, I fly down to Orlando. Mm-hmm. I will be going to MayaCon, which is going to be held at the US Open, which is I think the nation's largest martial art tournament. It is seen on ESPN. It'll be a who's whom or who's who of martial arts. So I'm looking forward to going to that one. So I'll get the business seminars, networking opportunities. There should be some vendors down there I can always check out, which is a good thing. And I got tickets to the Night of Champions, which is excellent. So
what is that?
What? Oh, that's like where the Grand Championships at night.
Okay.
So, and this is going to be happening on the Disney property. Now, I go to Orlando 3 times a year usually for these conventions. Not a big Disney person. I'm not against it. So when I go down to the business, I want to focus on the business. You know, if I'm going to do a Disney trip, I'll probably do that separate because I would go do training and then do some other things, and sometimes I forget about everything I learned. Because the experience, so you got sensory overload. So,
yep.
So today's show is going to be about why things fell apart when Remy passed, and people are probably going to be surprised on what we're actually going to say, because it's not going to be about personality-driven stuff, even though that's always a factor. But that's not the key thing. But I want to talk about something. I'm actually going to talk about Dan Anderson's book, his memoirs book that he sent me back in the day. This is his memoirs book, Super Dan, a martial arts memoir. So since last week's show, PG Ty got an email or message talking about stuff that's in the book, and I want to address this. Now, before I go into this, I want to set the stage so we're all on the same page. For years, I've made statements, comments about fact, and I've been held to a high level of having to prove what I say. Now, I have got no problem talking about what things are, the truth of what if I did something. I'm always do the crime, do the time. But if I make a comment about certain things, it's reporting facts, and if I say in my opinion, I'll throw that out there. So, and let me give you one example. PG Ty comes out of retirement, goes to a camp, at said camp, they tell him that I intentionally scheduled my event the same weekend as there, the same town, a couple miles down the road. Rich Parsons is here. Now I'm talking to Ty after, after these allegations. And I go, dude, we picked this weekend because they've always done the third or fourth weekend of the month. So we did the first weekend, and this is a school I've done seminars for. A matter of fact, I was doing seminars in this town before the person who was hosting even started Modern Arnis. Okay. So I tell Ty about this. Ty does a research just because that's what Ty does. He likes to vet his information. Not that he doesn't trust, but I tell everybody, listen, if I tell you something, you should double check my facts because they may be skewed based on my personal feelings, And what did you find there, Ty?
Well, yeah, when I went back and looked at it, they'd never used that weekend before. Maybe once out of like 7 times, but that was a long time ago, if that was the case. But I remember there was no reason to expect that was going to be a collision.
Okay, here we go. And trust yet verify. Perfect example. When someone tells me something, I trust them as a whole, but I do like double checking just in case someone forgot to cross a T or dot an I.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to, and in that particular case, we were never asked to see if we would switch weekends. Hell, they could have even invited us to be part of their event and make it a bigger event, but that was never the case.
And I believe they're also different subjects, wasn't it? Wasn't one Blentuak and it was Modern East?
So it was the Detroit, Michigan summer camp, hosted at Chuck's old school. And I was doing Rich and I were doing a doubleheader seminar at Guardian. It was the second time I've done a seminar at Guardian Martial Arts. Bill Barker and Guardians were hosting that together. And we said, hey, how's this date going? Oh, it works fine. I go, great, because at the time, the Michigan camp was the same weekend as the Hall of Fame camp that Michael Bates was doing. And I go, well, hey, they've and there was nothing listed on the website. Had they asked us to trade weekends, I would have been more than happy to do that. But we were doing Balintawak, an influence of Modern East, and they did Modern East by itself, Then we had and I would have been more than happy to come out. Matter of fact, they had Kelly Warden at that event as well. Of course, things got skewed and people didn't want to talk about what the truth of the matter was. And there's other events that things came up, and Ty has seen how people talk about things, but they don't talk about their own actions and how they contribute to the problem. How their accuracy or inaccuracy can be with things. So, and we talked about my Datu promotion and the videos, and I keep hearing comments about these phantom videos. Yet if you look at archive.org, you can get a list of people to verify things because, if you want to talk about the forms videos that we filmed at the Michigan Summer Camp, you would talk to Lisa McManus, her kid, Kevin Black, and there's Chris Davison.
Hey, Chris.
There we go. Scott Vanderzees. Randy Shea was part of that. I mean, there's at least 6 of us there that could verify what happened. Now you might, you'd have to do a little work to track them down, but I keep hearing about these phantom videos. Like, how much more proof do you want? So when someone makes a claim and says something, I want proof because I know if I'm held to that level of accountability, that means we all have to share in that level of accountability. How do you feel about that, Ty?
That seems reasonable to me. I mean, I see where you're coming from. If particularly if it's the same person, right? Saying, hey, show me what you're talking about. And then they say something, you might want to do the same thing.
So this person has been one of my biggest critics, and time again, I give him facts, and he will just choose to see things a different way. Which, how many times have we invited him on the show? Okay, enough, right? Yeah. He's made comments that, we've invited him to be on the show and we can't get, and he goes, well, we can't get him to shut up. No, we don't want a monologue. We want a dialogue. That's why we have guests on the show so we can all interact. But in the show, he talks about this fax that he petitioned Remy to start his own system. Now, it's here in the page, which to me, this is not proof. This is a handwritten note. This is hard for me to do that. There's page 1 of it. There's page 2 of it. Oh, sorry, wrong direction. Okay. And over here in the book, it talks about what he actually said. Now, down here, there's a typed area that talks about a response from, say, Bob Quinn. There's no signature on this. For all I know, this could have been handwritten yesterday. I mean, obviously not, because this book was produced before yesterday. But this handwritten note could have been done just for the benefit of this. And there's no response written or otherwise about acknowledging Dan to have his own subsystem of modernities. Now, I've shared this information with you, Ty, to look at it. Where do you think what he's supplied with us in the book? Because personally, I thought there was a dialogue going back and forth between him and Remy, which, one, Remy wasn't anywhere long enough. 2, he sure as hell didn't know how to use a fax or even have a fax. 3, there's nothing here that's a receipt of a fax, or there's nothing here that's signed. The only thing I do is seeing 2 pages of notes from Dan and handwritten, which, if you're sending it to a Filipino, I think it should be typed. Because, if we're talking Remy Presas, whose English was his 3rd or 4th language, I would want it typed out so it'd be legible and someone else could read it easily. But I'm going to leave this up to you right now.
Well, just looking at that. So actually, I don't remember. Did the note at the end on the last page, does that say something about the petition or not at all? It just says a carried forward message that says he should do this.
Well, okay, so
because that's important for a couple of reasons, and I'll go on with that.
Okay, so are you talking about the one allegedly from Bob Quinn here?
Right.
Which, listen, I knew Bob Quinn personally. If Bob Quinn verified that he wrote this in this conversation Remy had, I would say, all right, now you got something, because I trust Bob Quinn. But then I would also question Bob Quinn in what context that things were being said. So, Darren, how the hell are you doing, sir?
Well, right. So I guess all I'm saying is that you got a petition. Okay. I'll even take that at face value, right? Petition was sent, maybe even, to Remy, right? So that's face value. Got it. So, and then another person says, in talking about it, again, lacking context, and you're not even sure that second note pertains to the petition specifically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the second note, Dan, hopefully everyone hears this. Dan, I hope I hope to hand deliver this message. I have entrusted it to a loyal student, Jimmy Thomas, to give you this. It brought back many memories, and when I sat down with the professor to read it, and he interpret the contents, I remember how he would ask me, Bob, what do you think? My response, of course, was positive and well received by him. He said, this is a good thing. Dan must do this. Dan, I thank you for being occasions an advisor. I will speak to you when you get back. Please look and see if some folks want to come to Atlanta for a camp.
Right. So if we're talking a high standard of proof, you have a note that could be talking about any other idea, right? Since it's not referencing this one specifically, and it's carried forward, permission. Now, even if it is referring to this note, so we can even take that at face value, because that's already not suspect, but it's not proof, right?
No.
So just because something's not proof doesn't mean you don't believe it. It's not hard and fast. And I would be thinking about, hey, what is going to stand up to massive scrutiny? So then, if it's talking about this and Dan should do this, then the other question is, like you said, is context. What part of it did he talk about? What part of it did he mean? And how did he understand the request? Because you and I both have talked about several times, you had to be pretty clear with Remy, and sometimes you want to ask him things a couple times.
Yes.
But the overall, right, just the lack of an actual response that's recorded objectively from Remy directly pertaining to this, like it's this doesn't stand on its own. You have to depend on either trusting Bob or understanding the association between the two notes, or. So the problem is that it doesn't objectively support that he had permission. It does say, okay, I got some feel, and if I'm going to take that, then you could judge. People could judge it, but as soon as it falls back to judgment, it's no longer proof.
Well, in this particular case, I would have loved to have seen a signature on this.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, for one. Two, I mean, listen, okay, if for me, because I know how things go, I don't believe this. I don't think there's enough.
So here's other things. Remy, when he would do things that he wanted to stick, he would announce those in bigger forums, right?
Yes. So, and I'm going to interject. What I always went with Remy was, and by the way, hello, Frank. How you doing?
Hey, Frank. And there.
And there, yes. I don't care what Remy said privately,
right,
behind closed doors. It was always about what he publicly would say. So when he promoted me and announced my rank and then introduced me as Datu and all these things, it was what he did in front of people that I cared about. If he wouldn't say it in front of other people, then I put it in a different category.
Sure. Well, he would encourage privately a lot of different ways. He would say, "You are my protege," and things like that, right? And then wouldn't announce that, "Hey, everybody, this is my protege." It's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
So but the other thing that I believe the petition didn't even mention the name. Is that correct?
Well, see, I don't think Dan had the name until,
right,
I mean, he just, and once again, I didn't read it. It was just.
So doing your own branch of modern with professor's permission could be, hey, I'm doing modern. It's Dan's version. That's different than a whole new named style, because I remember there were other styles that popped up that were split off that Remy was not happy about.
Right. And some, yeah. So, and in the letter, allegedly, two things to bear in mind. This is not a Jeff Arnold, Mike, whatever his rapology, whatever thing, where I am going to break off and start up American freestyle modernist sort of thing. You
right,
are my teacher, and modernist is your creation.
Well, that's good then.
It's good that he wrote that, but once again, I don't know when he actually wrote this. I just want to have my own branch of it. What does that mean? And how did Remy perceive that?
Right. Those are some good questions. But again,
I will abide by your decision to feel I will abide by your decision if you feel that that the time is not right, or that I still need more training and understanding in your art, or any other reason you have. You decide for me. It's a you. You decide for me, or not to have my own branch. So be it. You'll have no complaint from me.
That part's all good. But I mean, if you have a franchise of something, there is pretty specific and clear, so that nobody has a doubt,
guidelines that you would follow,
permissions and guidelines that everybody could accept, right? So that you wouldn't leave room for doubt. And this one makes you go, wait a second, what are we talking about here? Who said what to whom? Now it's hearsay, which again, as we know, is not admissible evidence in a court of law. All of those kinds of things make it go, wait a second, it's if that's all you have, I get it. In your mind, you're probably you got it because you understood who you're talking to and all that good stuff. But for everybody else, when they have to judge how much they want to do that, I can see that there'd be some challenges for people. Just my take.
Yeah. I personally, I don't want to. The evidence doesn't stand up. Let's put it that way. To me, there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say that this post, this wasn't written just for the book. There's, and we know MA80. I mean, well, what, where's MA80? when was it done? I mean, there was no name in there. I'm doing too many things at once here. Okay.
I mean, I have to admit, when I heard about this whole kerfuffle way back a while ago, I assumed that there was a petition and a response from Remy. This was not that. So, sorry, guys. My reaction is based on you set these standards for a petition and a response from Remy, and I don't see a response directly from Remy, and let alone officially. So there's not much to work with here, folks.
Yeah. I look at the whole thing, and I don't see anything from Remy signed. I don't see a receipt of of if this was truly a fax. I don't see a receipt. There's not enough proof for me that this actually is a thing.
And in case anybody's thinking about reaching, here's the other problem is there are times that we've all seen, and I'm not going to even call names out here, but everybody, remembering something some way or misremembering an order of things. Some of these small details matter if you're going to try to convince other people, right? We can all feel about things how we want to based on our own memories, but if you're trying to convince other people and have a standing that is defensible, to me, you have to have a lot more objective links than this has.
Yep.
I'm not even trying to get political here because
no, but here's the thing. This came up because of our show last week.
Sure.
And I want to address it. And if Dan would like to be on the show, by all means, if anyone wants to be on the show, we're, to talk about things that they don't like what we said, if they feel that we misrepresent them and they want to be part of this, we're more than happy to do that.
Heck, maybe there's more to the letter and there had more links to it, and maybe there was a signature. There's a bunch of things that could be missing because the very next page is a total another recognition by the IMFP, right? So there's not anything on the next page. So that's all we have to go on, and it's pretty slim. I wouldn't claim that I have permission to make a new style based on this. I guess that's my standard. If this is all I had to show for it, I might say I'm doing my own thing, but I'm not going to say that unequivocally Remy gave me permission to start my own branch of his art.
Well, here's the thing. I was promoted to Grandmaster by Ernesto Presas in 2007. I knew this was coming down the pike. I didn't say a word until I had a certificate in my hand.
Sure.
Because until I go to the Philippines, until he gives me this, until all these things happen.
It's not official until it's official.
And I was really and then I left the diploma behind and someone had to send it to me. So I didn't say a word until I had the diploma in my hand.
Right.
Because I knew someone was going to, somebody was going to say something.
Well, that did make a lot of sayings. Even with that, people made a lot of sayings. But that,
of course. Yeah.
Showed more about them, but whatever.
Well, yeah. And of course, now that all these other promotions out there, like I can't say a word about things, but I'm like, well, wait a minute. You said it about me. And I'm not saying you called me a name, I called you. It's just that if you're going to say certain things, you need to understand if you're going to put people under a certain microscope, you need to understand that you're going to be put under that same microscope.
It goes both ways in a sense.
It's a two-way street.
But here's the other thing, right? So if you do something in public, guess who's going to say something about it? Oh, the public. We already know that. We live that every day.
Yes. And we're part of that public.
That too.
So, So when I on the show last week, I talked about this fax. I still don't think it exists. I see this, but there's not enough proof that it was sent. It was received. If Bob Quinn would have told me something that, like, if he was still with us, I like Bob. I respect Bob. If Bob would have told me that they had this conversation, I would have then I would have said, well, and listen. Let's say Remy. Okay, let's go argument's sake. Let's say Remy would have said it's exactly what it was said.
Okay.
Right? How come there wasn't a public announcement on it?
Right.
There you go. So I'm not going to go with saying that this is a scam or a lie. What I'm going to say is there's not enough evidence to prove your claims to be true, in my opinion. And it could just as easily be a misinterpretation of the message if it actually did happen. Right. So that's all I'm saying.
So, do this or do it. Both of those are non-specific pronouns. You gotta, you gotta have something more to link the it with the this and all of those.
Yeah.
Just a thought there. But again, I get how someone would take it for their own personal guiding light, right? We all had conversations with Remy, and heck, he showed me things how to do things, and so I do them that way to this day because that's how I learned it. It a little different than other people, but I'm going to keep that because that's what he gave me. So yeah, I get that. But as far as convincing that this is the way, it doesn't fit with some of the other announcements and things like that, the official things that were done.
And there you go. Okay, so that's all I want to get into that. This was brought up that we were supposed to check in the book. We checked the book, and there's really not enough evidence in the book to substantiate the claim that Remy authorized this.
Well, and I'm going to
Steve, how you doing?
I only have one other thing, and this is actually, I think, kind of important. So coming from academia, as I have, when you're published and peer reviewed and things are edited and gone past things, there are several layers of vetting before things get published. Not saying it's 100% true, but when you're self-published, you don't have those kinds of things. So just because it's written down, it's not much different than if you wrote a blog post. So,
well, like I said, with a claim like this, you need to. Okay, listen. You have to defend your work when you do that stuff, right?
Right. Well, and also that's the thing. If somebody's making a claim, then the burden of proof is on you.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it goes.
So not calling anyone a liar, but you need to make sure all your stuff is set, and there, I don't see it here. So let's get on to today's show. Oh, so there's knucklehead here. This is killing me here. I do want to talk about something.
No.
This isn't a bad thing, actually, believe it or not. I want to thank everybody who comes on our show and listens to us. I've been if you haven't noticed, please look at my Facebook, look at my Instagram. I've been posting a lot of different things lately, and the show. Be quiet. The show has been helping me get my thoughts in order, and listening to people, and when people ask me questions and stuff that we talk about. All right, okay. You talk for a minute. I'm going to get him something to eat.
All right. Gosh. And speaking of thanking people, I again want to thank one more time the Bradburys, Jackie and Kevin, for having me out last weekend. It was a great experience out there. They've got a good bunch of folks. If you're out in Kansas City, Missouri, or even Kansas City, Kansas, nearby, drop in and check them out because they're very welcoming. They're pretty serious school. Definitely a FMA school. I think I was pleasantly, I wouldn't say surprised, but I was pleasantly happy to see the level of commitment and the level of students and the level of school, and to hear that they were growing bigger. So that helps us, again, all rising tides raise all ships. So that's another example of people doing right by their love for FMA, for their perspective and their students. So anyway, just wanted to say thanks for that. That's really very cool. And if anybody also, by the way, has any questions about the camps that PG Chad and I are doing and have done, let us know. We can give you all the info. I think there's links everywhere, but I think we'd love to see anybody there. It's at a good facility. It's indoors. Last 2 years, this year and the year previous, are finally indoors, so it's a little more comfortable for those that don't like the heat and the bugs. I'm pointing at myself. So good stuff. And just top again, more top-notch people. So I'm very happy to be exposed and trained with all of the people I get to play with, whether I'm training, whether I'm teaching, whether I'm sharing, visiting, dropping in. It's all been a blast. And the show is like that too. You guys dropping on us, that helps us out a lot.
Okay, getting back to my point. Thank you.
Yep.
So we talked on the show about a bunch of different things. The nice thing about the show is in your face. We're a full contact radio show, of course, or a podcast. We are a little, I mean, listen, part of this is of the persona. We play up a couple things here and there. There's nothing that we don't talk about that we don't feel about. We might, but in the heat of the moment, we're a little smack talk type stuff like that. But having the show, and talk about all the different things and people asking questions. This has helped me reflect on things. And I've been making a lot of posts as of late, like senior versus elder, qualities for being a grandmaster, armchair quarterback as of late. Now, all these other things I've been posting. And the show has actually helped me organize my thoughts and get things out. And I want to thank everybody for asking questions and contributing one way or another. Last week was about the GMs, and one thing I want to point out just before we go in this, and because I thought we were fairly positive last week, neutral. But here's what I'm going to sit there and say. For me, okay, like Datu, if Datu is the head of a tribe, then the Grandmaster is the head of the nation, the multiple tribes. Okay.
The family of tribes.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you're just like a handful of people, I don't think so. If you're just teaching out of your garage, your basement, a rec center with just a handful of people, like we've talked about, it's just us, we don't care. But here's the thing. If you're the Grandmaster or having a Grandmaster title, that means you're a leader. You're the leader of these tribes. And if all you want to do is to collect the titles, if you sit there and say, well, I could lead this, but I choose not to. Right there, to me, that's disqualifying being the GM. Now, this is my opinion. But if you are wearing the title of Grandmaster and you're not attempting to lead, I mean, that's really, in my opinion, you're supposed to be leading people. So when Ernesto promoted me to Grandmaster, I already had like 20 schools underneath me. I was teaching seminars around the world. I looked at that, and we were growing the art as best as we could. But at the end of the day, there's some people who just want the title because they feel left out. Whether it be Datu, Punong-Guro, protege, this, that, or the other thing. Grandmaster being one of them. How grand of a master can you be if you... Well, I mean, we don't need generals. We need soldiers to carry it on. But when I hear comments of, well, I could run things, I just am not interested. Well, if you're not interested, why do you even bother accepting a Grandmaster title or petition for it? So, all right, so that's my thing. Hey, Harold, how you doing?
Nice. Thanks.
Then one more announcement on starting next week, Wednesday, is the Combatant Super Camp in Vienna, Austria, along with their World Championship for Combatant, which when I get back Monday from Orlando, it'll be Monday night, get back. Tuesday is the 4th of July. I do a lot of laundry. And then Wednesday, I hop on a plane and I'm going to Vienna. So, and part of which is because I'll be hosting the World Championships in 2024. I'll be crossing the T's and dotting the I's while I'm over there. I'm also meeting with Grandmaster Geronimo. He's going to be up in Toronto. I'm meeting him in the Falls at the end of July. So we'll have a Philippine delegate there. So, but I'll be also talking to Renee Tungsten about things for when we're over there in Vienna. So I'm looking forward to having a good time. So, everybody, listen. We're going to talk about why it all fell apart after Remy died. Now, I know what people are going to think. This is Tim's bitch session to bash on all these people, how they screwed up modern Arnis and they ruined it. We could go down that path, and yeah, that could be a factor. But we look at other arts; they had the same problems. Okay. And it was actually this show. I'm going to actually contribute to Rob Guido, who's one of my students, who's also taking Parker's Kempo. And he's a second-degree black belt in Parker's Kempo. He goes through Mrs. C, for those who know Kempo, and very talented martial art instructor. Has been around forever and a day. Was one of the top fighters in Parker's Kempo, fought in the ring type stuff. She's a badass. I would not want to be hit by her. And and she made some comments to Rob, and Rob and I are talking like, my God, you're saying all the same things that we've said, but we haven't applied it to this conversation. And I remember conversations with Chris Chu about back in the day and all this other stuff. So what I want to do is go over and talk about the real factors, not the perceived factors, but the real factors of what went down. And we, like I said, it doesn't matter about the feuding and fighting of the upper echelon or the quote unquote seniors, because the students don't give a shit. They're going to train with whomever they want.
There was way more of the Army than there were the seniors.
Right. So, and that's why I stopped doing things. So I hosted the reunion camp at the 10-year anniversary to bring everyone back together for a thing here and try not to unite us together, but for the betterment of the community. And then we did the 15-year reunion, and things kind of went sideways leading into that. And then we did the memorial camp. And that's when I decided I'm no longer doing a reunion camp. Mm-hmm. So when we do a reunion, when you go to my 40th high school reunion is coming up. What do people notice when they're doing reunions? Their tie?
Hey, where'd all my friends go?
People die off.
Yep.
Okay. Now it could be, hopefully it's not dying off. Hopefully they just went in different directions. Mm. We've lost a bunch of people in modern Arnis. Mm. Whether you like them or not, it's a shame, because there's people that I didn't like that are no longer here that had people who love them. Mm-hmm. I would not wish ill. Now, do I want to throat punch some people? Sure, I'd probably enjoy that. But I wouldn't want to see that person dead because someone in their life loves them. Mm-hmm. And I'd hate to see them affected that way. Mm-hmm. Contrary to popular belief, I am not the monster that people think I am. So what's Harold got here? Harold, there's a lot of people ruining our nieces, especially in the sport aspect. But you know what? If the sport aspect brings a higher level of awareness, is it a bad thing?
Right.
It just needs to be managed properly. That's all.
Right.
And then, can you be a good player?
You can be a good player, but being strict to your teacher is different. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Not every gifted person can teach. Not every amazing fighter can teach.
But these fighters can be great ambassadors for us.
Yep, getting the word out.
There you go. I mean, here's the thing I'm proud of. We'll talk about the sport real quick. I've got students that are competing in the open martial art. Now, when I say open martial art, I'm talking we're going to karate tournaments. Mm-hmm. And a Filipino martial arts school is coming back with a lot of the first place hardware. Mm-hmm. Not this last couple, but hey, you know who the grand championship for the 18 and over division was? Mm-hmm. The last tournament? This guy. I was the most winning person at the tournament in 18 and over. Why? Because I lead by example. I wanted people to go out there and say, hey, listen, I'm out there. And Chris will tell you, he talked about it the last time. I hit someone with a spinning back kick and hell, I didn't know you could kick, let alone spin. I spin the sticks. It's the same thing. Just
that's right. Some sneak around, sneak that again. But yeah, Remy mentioned that stuff too.
Yeah. So
yeah, let's get into it though.
So that'll be, we'll just shoot off on that. So Harold, we could talk about that. That might actually be a good show.
Either of those. We've touched on both of them, but I don't think we've done.
We can talk about, is sport ruining martial arts?
Depends.
Depends on who you are.
Right. Depends.
Okay. So let's paint a picture. So Remy died in 2000.
2001, right?
Or 2001, I'm sorry. He was diagnosed in 2000.
Right.
Basically, Modern East froze at the end of 2000. It came with Remy Presas. October of 20 or 2000. 2000. I was with him in Germany when he got diagnosed. Okay, so let me see here. I got some information here.
And up until that point, Remy was doing a ton of seminars and camps, and you could always find him in all the magazines, Inside Kung Fu, Karate Illustrated, Black Belt magazine.
Find him.
The flyers, the mail-out flyers, because most of the camp directors would maintain a mailing list and send you out when the next thing was coming out. And then they shared those lists amongst themselves. But that was all about Remy.
Okay, so let me talk about something here. So, listen, you're going to hear this for those who are young ones, whether you hear this live or on a replay. You're always going to have your parents say you don't know what it was like back in the day.
Right.
So a generation is 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if they had you when they were in their 20s, okay, that's a full generation. You don't know what it was like. So Remy died in 2000. So in 2001, I'm sorry. In 2001, 28.3% of Americans had cell phones. Mm-hmm. So that means, well, we'll say 29. So that's 71% of Americans didn't have a cell phone.
I didn't have one at that time.
Okay. Cells with internet started in 2001. Facebook started in 2004. YouTube was created in 2005. Instagram in 2010. Okay. So all of this technology came about after Remy died.
Mm-hmm.
And the cell phones we had back then.
Our first one was 2001 or 2002, a Motorola V60, the clamshell titanium one. Remember that? Nice phone, but not internet capable.
I had the StarTAC, so it flipped like the Star Trek.
Okay, yeah, same deal.
That was StarTAC, StarTAC.
Yep.
Star Trek, but it was the StarTAC, you know.
Yep.
So the websites had just started. The internet was not out there. Everything was done to find out where Remy was. You didn't Google it.
Nope.
When was Google started?
Oh gosh.
I'm gonna Google that.
I know we had Alta Vista in the 90s, some search engines and Yahoo search and all that kind of good stuff. That's for those that had internet. I was on university. I think Google was somewhere in the early 2000s.
Okay. Google was founded in 98.
Okay. Okay, close. Okay.
All right. But we really weren't using the internet like that.
Unless you were part of university like I was.
Yeah.
And even then, I couldn't find much. I was in the 90s, I was one of two websites, very, very small websites that had information on Remy. It was just a background. Hey, what's Modern East and what is this thing I like? It really didn't have an announcement for other websites, let alone events. So that was not what it was about.
So when they talked about when Rob was talking to Mrs. C, they're trying to say, listen, it wasn't like you had a chat group. You couldn't reach out to people. You didn't have a mailing list of all this other stuff. It was just, there was no way to communicate. And people today, like, you know, so we were discussing on FMA Discussion. Chris Chu was on there and he goes, you know, I met this guy who claimed to be the East Coast director for Remy. And he had never heard of my father. Mm-hmm. Well, let's put it, and I told him point blank, well, there's a reason why no one heard of your father. No one knew who your father was. Because the only names that got out there were the people who traveled. Mm-hmm. You know, or the only names that would be published, here we go, published, were the seminar hosts. If they listed the seminar in Black Belt or Inside Kung Fu.
Right. So the only reason you might know someone is if you met them, or if they were hosting. Other than that, it was Remy, 100% of the time. Yep.
So you wouldn't know who to talk. So like I was well known because I was well traveled. Mm-hmm. Had I not traveled, no one know who the hell I was. You know?
Yep.
So technology was a huge part, or lack thereof, of why this fell apart. Because here's the thing. You can talk about politics. Every art has it.
Mhm.
And if you don't understand that, I've heard people, you Monterey guys have a lot of politics. I go, you've never been around a bigger organization, have you? What do you mean? I go to Taekwondo, go to karate, go to Kempo, go to something that they actually have numbers, not a little small group in your backyard with 10, 12 people. Well, actually, that's a big group for FMA. It's not, the problem I have with the FMA community is they don't understand scale, not over here in the States.
Mhm.
I was at Ray Galan's tournament, the Bakken tournament. I took a team. I competed. And I'm talking to one guy there. He goes, well, Tim, what are your numbers like right now in your club? I go, well, it's a little light. It's summer now. We have 80 people. 80 people? We'd be happy if we had 8 people. And most of the groups there, that was the size they had.
Yep.
So when you've got a small group, you don't know anything. Hang out. And the nice thing here is, like, I was talking to Michael Haron from OGE, Original Garon Eskrima, Leo Haron's son. And I was starting talking about politics and this, that, and the other. He goes, you put a lot of research in this. No. I'm a guest instructor at a lot of these other martial art organizations. And being the person from the outside, I'm the one that everyone wants to be their confidant. I know all the Kempo stuff because I was a guest instructor. And everyone would complain to me about their brothers and sisters. Because
you know what they say, if you're doing an endeavor and you've got more than 3 people doing it, you're gonna have politics.
Yeah.
And it scales, like you said. Your scale is one of those things that you don't know what you don't know. So if you are insular and you're in your small group, that's going to be your pond that you're used to.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So to me, the biggest factor was the lack of technology. Because right now, let's think about this. Let's say Remy was still here today.
Mm.
He dies tomorrow. A month later, the smoke clears. Okay. What do? You want to continue training. What can you do there, Ty?
You can scour the internet and find out what's out there on their own. You can then use that to contact those people to reach out. It's much more linked, right? You can leverage the internet as your first contact, which we didn't have then.
Oh, and listen, for those who are listening to this, okay, so Ty and I, we're the original Gen Xers. Started in 65. Mm-hmm. We grew up with the baby boomers.
Yep.
So it's that whole era of how things were. Here you go. Wait for it. Internet was dial-up.
Yes. Yep. I ran a bulletin board during the 90s and on into the 2000s a little bit.
Which means in your household, if you did not have a dedicated phone line for internet, yep, you couldn't use the phone while you're on the internet.
Yep. Unless you got an extra line. Yep.
Picked up the phone and blew the connection for my friends because I had to call real quick. I'm like, God damn it.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
That's why I always had 2 lines. That's the advantage of running a bulletin board system. I could shut down the bulletin board and then do my browsing and still talk on the phone.
But I'm not. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about all these things, but I mean, you weren't there, so you don't know.
But I mean, people, and I don't blame them, right? Because think about it's second nature. This is so natural to do all of this interneting and even the videoing and the discussions and searching. Second nature, and it's hard to remember a time, even though we lived it.
So here we go. This is my Samsung 22S or 22 or 23, 22 plus. Okay. Mm-hmm. Would you say that this phone is probably more powerful than the laptops we had back then?
Oh, easily. That's more powerful than the desktop that I ran my bulletin board on by a factor of 100 at least.
There you go. I was happy to get I bought a hey Craig, how you doing?
Hey,
and I was happy to get a basic Texas Instrument calculator for my Christmas one year. Mm-hmm. And it was probably like a $50, $30 to $50 calculator back in the 80s. Now they give them, the ones they give away free at banks have more power than that damn thing did. I would say shell oil and hello. I'd spell it with the numbers.
Right.
Because really, I mean, I was actually pretty good at math. I didn't even need it, but I wanted one because I wanted one. And, and the thing here is, it's not what everyone thinks it is, and it is.
Even knowing the people that you knew, you didn't necessarily have their phone numbers.
No.
Or even a couple articles did talk about some of the players, just a couple of short articles.
Modern East Next Generation. I was featured in it, but my contact information was not listed.
Right. You certainly didn't have email listed and certainly didn't have your phone because that's too private. But so you might know of some names if you had been in the game looking for Modern East for the longest time. So that doesn't, again, apply to most of the soldiers out there or the people that want to get into it. Once Remy died, all of the ads for the big camps dried up. All of the networks for consolidated, a feel of, hey, this is a singular leading forward seminar tour, camp tour, that all went by the wayside. And if you did see things, it was onesies and twosies. So who do you go to?
Well, and here's the thing. Now think about this. We talked about that we were starting the Can-Am chapter.
Right.
Things were beginning to go, and I was able to message the people that I was there. And okay, there you go. This is for you.
Oh, great. He was remembering those times, and he was happy Roden was to not have hand-me-down underwear. So there you go. Then he wore it to Taco Bell, and we won't even go to that one.
Okay.
And he says happy 4th.
Okay. So, Terry Warham, the Michigan State camp host, used to send out from an Excel spreadsheet. He had everyone's contact information and shared it with all the camp people. Okay. He was the only one who did that. Okay. We're still waiting for black belt diplomas from some of the camp hosts. Okay. So we didn't have this, and this one we had to mail. There was no central mailing list because we didn't have the technology for this at the time.
Right.
And, like I said.
And you're talking about central snail mail list. Yeah, there was no central snail mail list. And I would say that there wasn't even an email for those of us that had email. Pure Modern East discussion group. There was the Eskrima Digest, right, that you could get in the 90s. But that was all FMA. And to be honest, Modern East was not a big part of that discussion group.
No, we won't. And let's talk about that in a minute, but I got to let him out. Hold on.
Sure. Great source of info. In fact, I enjoyed being part of that. Ray Terry ran that, and FMAs from all over the world participated, and I got to learn more about FMA in general. And again, thinking of Modern East as a standalone art with kicking, punching, weapons work, mixed weapons, etc., improvised weapons, all of that. I wanted to know more of the history and culture behind all that. So I looked out to the FMA Digest and I saw other people's thought and talked about how they practiced. And I saw a lot of good connections there. So it actually made me even happier what I got from Remy interacting with those people and gave me ideas. And that's where I met Rocky actually on that email list, who's out there training his son now, which is great.
Yeah, it's good that he's getting back into it.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Screaming Jobbers was good. Reddit.
In the late 90s, yep.
Okay, then Rubber Chicken Salute. There we go. There you go. All right, there we go. Here we go. Alvin remembers that.
Yep, Screaming Digest. Nice. Good.
I want to go back up to Harold because I don't want to think we've ignored it. It just wasn't in the flow of what we were saying.
Right.
Okay, people thought that our niece is just stick fighting. And in some cases it is because some people don't have the open hand combatives.
Right.
And they don't know that our niece is just an extension of the hands. You will be taught mano, hand to hand. But unfortunately, not all systems have that.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of the way Remy taught it, a lot of Modern East people don't realize how much open hand combatives we have.
True. Well, I mean, it's interesting. As you know, we talked about this the other day, right? There's not all FMAs have, like you said, those other pieces. Not all FMAs have Sinawalis, right? Not all FMAs have double stick work, right? Yeah. So, I mean, the trend is certainly there. And if you're looking at FMA writ large, you have all of these pieces.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Balintawaka Eskrima does not do Sinawalis.
Right.
Grandmaster Tabuada has put Sinwali's in there because he likes
The flow.
it's in his curriculum. It's in his curriculum, but
I
that's not Balintawak.
Right. I think it's part of his delivery method to make sure that they are.
But I mean, that's a drill. I mean, listen, Hubud is not in modern Arnis.
Right.
But I do Hubud because I see the value of it. But when I do my curriculum for modern Arnis, I do not require people to do Hubud.
Right.
But I will show them how we have a Hubud module we run because I think it's important to identify, one, it's not part of what we do, and two, the value of what's there.
Well, like some even learning like the groupings of Balintawak. It's just another tool that lets us play with our FMA brethren in Sistren, our larger FMA family, right?
Yep.
We're
Magazine of Barnes and Nobles, day one. Okay, 1 or 2 copies. Look like Kung Fu Illustrated. Okay. Yeah. And then looks like Kung Fu. Okay, okay, good. So now here's a big thing that I feel, and I talk about this all the time. And I've said this too. So first of all, I started the World Modern. I wrote down the concept of the World Modernist Alliance. It was either 98 or 99. I found it. I've got it in a notebook that I wrote it down. The World Modernist Alliance. Now, why do you think I did that when I was in good standings with Remy? I hadn't even become a Datu yet. Right. Although, well, I did and I didn't.
Right.
Remy promoted me, but I didn't accept it until the year after.
Right.
So why would I write down the concept, the name, the World Modernist Alliance a year or two before Remy died? Any idea there, Ty?
For me, it kind of would make sense if you saw that the diaspora, if you will, Modernist, was growing larger and needed to talk amongst itself, even if there is a still Remy or not, right? It needed to look after itself. But as an alliance, right? To me, an alliance is not the same as a monolithic listen to me organization. So that's what I'm taking.
Yeah. So the reason why I wrote that down is because I felt, and I feel rightfully so, that everybody else that was doing Remy's art that I'd run in contact with had a safety net. What is the motto of modern Arnis that everyone likes throwing out there?
What is the what?
The motto of modern Arnis. Everyone likes throwing out.
Go with the flow, art within your art.
There we go. The latter. It's the art within your art. So all these other people had these other versions, these other systems, I should say, to fall back on. So you're a Taekwondo person. You're studying with Remy. Remy dies. You still have your Taekwondo.
Right.
You're doing jiu-jitsu. You're doing judo. You fill in the blanks. Modern Arnis was their secondary or tertiary art. They really didn't care. I mean, they didn't want to see Remy die. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there was no. They had a safety net. This is something they used to enhance what they were doing, not instead of. Did you see the one post? Should I pull that up?
Which one?
Phil.
It's fine. I mean, just because I used a big word, he was defining it. I forget. Okay. I forget. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Shall we?
I mean, if you want to. So I use the word diaspora. So he defines it, right? So if you're not used to the word, it's just a dispersion specifically of the Jews amongst the Gentiles after captivity. Any similar dispersion, which is how I was using it, and a group so dispersed, especially Jews outside of the land of Israel. So it's an adjective as well as a noun is all. But anyway, so I was using it in the second meaning. Sorry, guys.
Let's see. Here we go. Art within. Very good. Brian had it. And there we go.
Yep.
And Brian's going to be at the instructors camp.
Oh, excellent. Good.
Yeah. So it'll be the first time you guys can meet him. He's good.
I don't think I met him. Okay. And Rodent here makes a good point, right? Because you had notes. That's another thing. You didn't have videos. There were videos. People were starting to do some really poor quality videos in the 90s. Or unless you really paid out for the fancy video, then it was a big hassle. But in general, people only had notes and then the VHS tapes.
Yep. Looking forward to it. Yep.
You couldn't use your phones or your Remarkable 2 like I use.
And not everybody had a VHS back then either.
Nope. Right.
And the camcorders, because I had one, they were like $1,500.
Yep. I eventually got a VHS-C camcorder that I didn't use it very much. But at least it wasn't beta.
Oh yeah, no, not beta. Beta died.
Beta.
So, and this is the whole thing. So we talk about how Parker passed away in 91, but look how big they are today.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't Remy's art have the same survivability and explosion?
Well, this is the part that people don't talk about in this context, and that's the other half of it. And I'll go ahead and answer because we've talked about it. But I mean, they had dedicated schools, right? We don't talk about it because nobody assumes that you do, and so it just goes without saying. But it doesn't go without saying. It was a huge contributor to why things were very difficult to keep people going and not get orphaned. And we have so many orphans out there in modern Arnis because of some of this lack of connection, let alone any parts of the politics, which is certainly a contributor, but that's a different show.
Okay, so let's. All right, I will go down the path. I will be the mean guy because that's my persona. The IMAF could have been more inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
They could have been more welcoming. They probably scared more people off than they attracted.
Well, like when they
at the end of the day, here we go. You can say whatever you want about Tim Hartman. I left 20 black belts left with me. Mm-hmm. Okay. I told everybody when I was leaving, stay there, stay where you're at, don't follow me.
Right. You did not tell them or ask them to leave.
I never asked anybody to leave.
Right.
Within a year of them taking over, there was a split amongst them.
Yes.
So
that's when I became a hermit myself.
All the things that happen in the IMAF are not my fault. You could point the finger and do all this other stuff. But the thing here is, there's people like Jay Spyro didn't know that the Michigan King camps were still going. I'm like, you're in Michigan because no one ever reached out to her. That's what she told me.
That's crazy. Okay. Yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah.
And there's plenty of things like that. Now, I will say this. We already said there wasn't a mailing list for a national mailing list.
Right.
But people could have reached out and said, hey, why don't you come do it? I mean, my first camp, I had 50-some people.
I was going to say, so if you went to camps at all, say you're in Modern Nation, you want to keep doing it, you probably went to at least, we'll say 2, right? At that point, you kind of know who your seniors are, and maybe you know at least where they are, and you can look up the yellow pages, right? Do the hard way and get a hold of people, and then start doing the slow version of networking. So yes, you could do it, but again, if it's not your primary and you don't have a standalone school, you don't have committed populace, it's going to be really rough to prioritize that.
Listen, Remy, there was people there to hang with Remy.
This is all about Remy. Yep.
Okay, so let me see.
Somebody said it was somebody.
I'm gonna go here. Then you need a tape adapter for tracking. Okay.
That was for the VHS-C.
Okay, here we go.
That's the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Remy was the brand and the man.
That's right.
Okay. Would Bruce Lee's system be the same if Bruce was never on TVs or movies? There we go. If Enter the Dragon never happened,
right,
Jeet Kune Do wouldn't be what it is today.
Right. So for Bruce Lee, right, the networking was not technology; it was media.
Think about that. That movie opened up Asian martial art movies for the Western world.
Yep. And
they were up. Yeah.
Raised the tide for all martial artists.
Yep.
All Asian martial arts. And European, right? Because of Savat and boxing and all those things.
But you'll sit there and say, hey, listen, what did Bruce Lee do? He made a kick-ass movie that is still that's timeless. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then his students carried the torch, but he was the one that lit the match.
Yep.
So because we know of someone who said
he lit the match and he actually put gasoline on it.
Yeah. There are people who were upset because someone's wearing a Bruce Lee t-shirt. What did he ever do? He did a goddamn movie that started the movements. What do you think?
Right.
And Asano ran with it along with several other of his first gen students. And it doesn't matter who's the rightful whatever. They spread it. See, that was the good thing about them because they had people who had, wait for it, dedicated schools or created dedicated schools.
Right.
Now, if modern Arnis, I mean, listen, please tell me if I'm wrong on this one. There's only 3. Rocky's school, whatever Rocky's, I don't even remember what Rocky's school name was. He had a school in Detroit, the Filipino Karate Academy, where I came from, and Horizon Martial Arts. I don't know of any other.
Well, Remy was alive. Yeah, that's the only ones I know.
Okay.
That early on, and that's why Remy was alive, right?
Yeah, that was why Remy was alive. Which this is my 35th year for my school.
Right. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people had serious programs in their system, but it was, or in their schools, resident or part-time, but that's different.
There was some hybrid.
And there was some hybrids too, Kung Fu Arnises and several other different kinds.
But here's the thing.
Kempo Arnis.
This is where people don't like what I say. And I really...
How's that different than normal?
Yeah. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. But maybe when I'm saying it makes them upset because they know I'm right. Okay.
Or it might just be harsher than they feel like saying.
Yeah. I don't like hearing about the art within your art. It really annoys the hell out of me. Because everyone's trying to talk about this, that, and the other thing.
What if you came to Modern East and you didn't have an art?
Thank you. Because that's how I started. Right. And here's the thing is, Remy didn't teach the art within your art.
Mm-hmm.
He taught his lessons.
Yep.
And what would happen is when it came time for testing, he had a sliding scale on what was a black belt based on your background.
Mm-hmm.
My students, they did good. But they look different than everybody else because I look different than everybody else.
Right.
And I don't want to learn a Kempo hybrid, a Kempo Arnis hybrid, an Ishinru Arnis hybrid, a Kung Fu Arnis hybrid. You know what I want to learn? I want to learn what Remy Presas taught.
Right. Yep.
Okay. And then if I choose to blend it with something else, that's my choice. I don't want your synthesis. I want what Remy taught.
And Remy's synthesis.
I want more people to teach what Remy taught. Because the art's not going to, I mean, oh, look, I'm teaching modern East.
Right. Well, I mean, Remy synthesized, but that's the part that I want. That thing that he came up with, his version of it, I want that as much as possible. So I'm right there with you, and so is Eric, as we talked about before.
Yeah.
Several people during their conversations. You know, I've had students that they only did modern East with me. Raymond has had students that have done that, and they've turned out well because we again taught it as a standalone art. So you could punch, you could kick, you could do all the things.
And there you go.
And you had a way to move. But yeah, but that's neither here nor there as far as, let's see, did we actually get as far as we needed to on the logistical problems with what was so hard for Modern East to have a smoother transition logistically?
Well, let's see if we can sum this up. I think we already did, but let's see. Okay. So,
technology.
Listen, well, no, we'll start with the bit. We know that there was personality-driven issues.
Sure.
That's going to happen in any art.
No different. Yep.
Okay. Uh-oh.
And people are going to fall on wherever they were.
Okay.
There you go. But people are going to fall on those personality things wherever they fall. But again, that's neither here nor there. It's the same everywhere.
Because that was not the biggest challenge.
No, and that only was important to the few that have been doing long-timers or seniors or what do you want to call them. Yeah. Not the soldiers, the vast majority that just wanted to keep doing something cool.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, the two main factors I'd say, one, lack of technology. I think that's probably the biggest thing we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Technology wasn't where it is today. So today's generation that's listening to this, your job is to make sure that all this stuff is on the internet so future generations don't have to go through the hardships that we did.
Yep.
Because really, that's it. We were challenged. We're a bunch of challenged people.
Right.
Listen, as a Gen Xer, we're tougher than all hell. You know, we're grown ass adults at 12. You know,
Mhm.
but the thing here is, I'm older than Google and hip hop.
That's
But the
right.
thing, I've been listening to those people the social media stuff. Listen, if this happened today, if Remy died today, a month for the smoke to clear, 20 years later, we'd be a hell of a lot stronger than we
People
are
would
today.
have the ability to map out where they wanted to go. You wouldn't have so many orphans. You might have a lot of splinters,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't have people going, "Oh, what do I do?" Because I'm sorry, that you didn't have the ability to find schools unless you had the yellow pages. So only the people in big cities had enough Arnis to find that.
Mhm.
You didn't have the advertisements. You didn't
Yeah.
have the email connectivity, the web searches, all of that good stuff. We listed all of these things.
Well, here we go. The internet and social media is probably the single greatest thing that
Yeah.
to happen for the growth of FMA. There we go.
It's
We're
exploding,
drawing
right? It's all
documentation
over.
real time. Yeah.
All
So
over YouTube and all the shorts and everything. People are just laying it out there, which is awesome.
I mean, you got access to great stuff. You got a great amount of access to crap out there. But the thing here is, you can then make a decision.
Yep.
You could go see all these things and talk to different people.
Yep.
Hey,
Decide for yourself.
so you know why? You want to know why? Oh, here's the thing. Okay, we have social media right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have technology.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why I end up going to Brazil?
Probably because of that exposure.
Of all the people they reached out to, Talas had bought, videos from like Frank and stuff from Dan and did all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
But we're the only group that's out there doing stuff. Because when you go to our website, you'll see activity. You'll see lists of seminars.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, listen, and based on what Talas would tell me, Frank pretty much doesn't Frank doesn't really travel much outside of his area. He's a school owner. That's where he stays, because it's hard when you're doing it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is.
I've got staff that can take over for me, but if I had the same quantity of help that Frank did, you sure as hell were shooting I wouldn't be leaving.
Right.
Dan pretty much does it in his school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, there you go. So, but you look at our website, we got seminars going on. I mean, sometimes not everyone gives me the stuff that they're supposed to. I'm not saying you.
No, sometimes me, but yes.
Well, yeah, no, but okay. We should have double the amount of seminar listings on the page, or on the website. But that's not on me. That's on our members sending stuff.
Yep. But even still, where there are plenty of opportunities, and it shows.
Yeah. Let's see here. Downside of text everything.
It's an expert, yes.
Yeah.
From the internet. Yep.
Yeah. So we got the push because you'll see more than one event a year. You look at the websites, you look at the social media, you see photos and posts and all this other stuff. And now our members are doing this stuff too. Hey, Carl, how you doing, brother?
Nice.
Yeah, speaking of activity, you know what's going on in August? Carl and I are going on tour in England.
Oh, in England? No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Country that has no taste when it comes to there's no taste palate. Fish and chips. That's why I like going to Germany. There we go. Germany's got some good food over there, and if they can't cook it, they bring people over that can.
There you go.
For sure. So but activity on social media,
right?
Opportunities.
Opportunities just like we looked for in the magazines with Remy, but now you can find it easier because of the internet connectivity.
So the IMAF had a problem for a while, and there was like a gag order type thing. They were like, hey, let's not go on the internet and let's not say stuff and just do our own thing. Very insular. But where are they now? Because you're going to lose people. So as a school owner, every time I sign a new person up, I'm looking for their exit strategy. They're going to leave me sooner or later. So I'm always trying to replace that next student. Okay, here we go. What's that? There you go. I'll read you.
I'll read it if you want. Yeah. So Michael says, even if he died today, it still wouldn't have prevented the power struggle. Very true. If he took care of succession a post-Remy modern East brand would have been more consistent. Sure.
So Michael's one of my black belts.
Okay.
But the thing here is, no one thought Remy was going to die. Remy did have a will. And here's the thing, unfortunately, the will was never executed.
Mm-hmm.
So his classmate, my black belt, Kevin Black, is actually the one who did the last will, which was based off of the will that Brett Salafia was doing, which is based off the will that Dave Pajek was doing, which was a classmate and student of mine.
And they all had a consistent message. They just were updated.
Consistent message. So the thing here is there was, and this, let's say, is there really a power struggle? Okay, I left. People chose to go with me. Other people chose to stay there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who Remy put in charge. Okay, at the end of the day, people will follow whom they choose to.
Right. You're going to splinter no matter what. But I do think that, if they had took care of the succession better, it could have gone smoother. Yeah. But there would still be splinters. There'd still be groups doing their own thing. And that's actually a good thing, I think.
Unfortunately, I think here's when, as far as the mixed message of the active people at the time,
mm-hmm.
I got Datu, but people didn't realize Remy promoted me the year prior. So in 99, Remy promoted me to Datu. I told him no because I wanted to test for it.
Mm-hmm.
He told Kelly Warden I was promoted, and Kelly called and congratulated me. And then when I talked to him, I go, Remy, you told Kelly I promoted you. You promoted me. Oh, yes. But I didn't accept it. Oh, I didn't tell him that. You're a Datu. So in his eyes, I was a Datu. And after I took the test at the 2000 camp and Mike was there,
sure,
the comment he made afterwards was, and now you're a Datu in their eyes, meaning the people.
Yep.
So, and then he introduced me at the Tucker George camp as Datu Tim. I've produced certificates and all this other stuff, but people still choose not to acknowledge this stuff, whatever. But at the end of the day, if Remy would have been around 5 more years, we would have found out what a master tappy was.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, in my personal opinion, is more of a consolation prize for me becoming a doctor. Will you stop it? They don't want to listen to you. You want to come here? Come here. So, here, come here. You want to be on the camera? Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, I probably would have been the person to test for their 7th next.
Mm-hmm.
Are you interested in promoting FMA?
In general, or just Modern East? It sounds as though Modern East is fragmented anyway. Sure, it's fragmented. It was made worse because of some of the things we talked about, as well as the personality things. But so I think it's not in either or.
Do you know who? Do we know who this person, by the way?
Yeah, I know it is. But
so you're going to have to talk to say. So,
but it's not an either or. It's not an either or, right? You're interested in promoting FMA in general, yes, and we're interested in promoting Modern East.
Let me ask you this, Ty. Mm-hmm. Do you think I'm interested in promoting FMA?
I think that's
because this person obviously doesn't know who he's talking to.
No, I think he does. I think he's talking about the discussion here.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I train with him when I go to Colorado Springs.
So for those who don't know, I'm pretty much the FMA ambassador out there. Now, Paulo Rubio and Dean Franco have stepped up for doing the social media interviews, but I have given plenty of people, actually talk to Jack Latour. He constantly gives me credit, maybe more so than he should.
Well, remember when June introduced you at the second East Coast FMA gathering? He said, hey, Tim Hartman needs no introduction. He's a big promoter of FMA, and you know him from Modern East, et cetera, et cetera.
So I've always had people from outside the system teaching at our events because I think a rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
And if we all work together, will you come over here? Not to mention, there's a lot more cross-pollination than people realize. Modern Arnis is a Filipino Jeet Kune Do. Okay, let me deal with this.
It was Remy's synthesis. Yeah. You want to pull up the next message?
Before Jeet Kune Do.
Yep. Phil Ruler. Okay, yeah. So Phil, is it about defining legacy for the art itself? Did Remy ever talk about the art after him? Publicly, well, he wanted the art to go on after him. That's about all he said, and he had the will. He did not think he was dying. This happened really, really fast, and even close to the end, he was in denial as far as that goes. But is the discussion we're talking about finding the legacy art? I think I'll speak for myself, and then I'll speak for what I think about Tim before he jumps in, because he'll do that because it's his show.
Our show.
Exactly. Well, there you go. But it is about the art. That's why we talk about the soldiers, about the people that are orphaned, about the people that are just love the art and want to keep doing it in spite of some of the shenanigans. And I think, promoting FMA is part of that, and keeping a good eye on high expectations for modern East in general is also part of that. But yeah, in my mind, Remy did not speak about the art after him, except for he wanted to keep going and then have a legacy, and he had the will. But he did not think he was going to die, so he wasn't looking as actively to say that in public because he had the will.
All right, so listen,
I'll let you speak now.
Oh, okay. What were you going to say? I was going to say.
No, I think I said it, which is I think that we both feel about the legacy for the art, which is why we talk about those things.
Let's go back here real quick. So Greg Hill says hello.
Hey.
And then Renee says Dean is awesome. Doesn't talk about you or I, but that's okay.
Nope, that's right, Renee. Thanks,
and then, first time Enoch told me to come to Hartman Workshop, I asked who is he. He said he's some big deal in Arnis, and he got me to go to 20 years ago. Okay. Okay, listen. Here's the deal. Remy already decided on what he wanted, but he didn't make the will. Remy really worried about what everyone thought. He didn't want to hurt people's feelings, contrary to popular belief. And you might have personal experiences that say otherwise, but it could be because maybe you're being a jerk or not understanding, because Remy's from another culture that 22 years after Remy passed, I'm beginning to understand more. Would you say, Ty, that your understanding of Filipino culture is a lot different today than it was when Remy was alive?
Well, yeah, for not the same reasons as you, but also remember I had some connection to understanding him right from the get-go because of my time in Malaysia, and that really served me really well in taking his encouragement, for sure.
Right. So, I mean, but there's a lot of things have changed over time. And I mean, I look at Remy now. I knew Remy a lot better today than I did back then, because I also took time for me to mature and understand where things were.
Sure. You mean you're not the kid back then that some people didn't like the way he did stuff?
I'm still that same person that I always been. But my BS filter has gotten full.
Right.
I remember saying that, well, look at the old crotchety old men. No, crabby old men.
Right.
No. They're young guys like us who have been putting up with shit way too long, and finally we stand up for ourselves and say something about it.
Tired of that S, yeah.
And I was like, come on, really? So, but at the end of the day, Remy wouldn't want to put out what was in the will because it's supposed to go in effect after he dies. He trusted the people he put in charge to execute the will. And he didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings about people who weren't in the will.
Yep.
I mean, we've talked about who's in the will.
There's people that, you would normally clean house, but he left them in because he didn't want to hurt feelings.
Well, and then there's some other people who are not in the will.
Right.
That talk pretty big these days, but it's like, well, you're not in the will.
Right.
And this thing had been going since the 80s. Get over here. So to me, well, like today's show is to talk about why modernities had the problems it did, and use this model for all the arts out there. So we're always talking. Listen, it's FMA Talk, Martial Chronicles, Modern Arnis. That's the core. But if you listen, everything we talk about affects other things. We have all the same problems that everyone else does. We just have more of them because we're on a bigger scale. I mean, some of these arts, there's like some arts are going to disappear this generation.
No doubt.
It
always happens. It's not as obvious as it is now. Again, with the internet, so maybe that'll slow them down. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, there's the chance that maybe the air or people stop training it and future generations find the old YouTube videos
Mhm.
and start doing it and reviving an art. I mean, things happen.
Yep. Still, it's better than old fencing manuals.
At least they're there.
Right. And those are good too to have. Right. It's better than nothing. It's just really hard to get the movements.
I don't know why he's pestering the hell out of me tonight.
You're the only one there.
He was upstairs with Janice, and now he's. I definitely need to clear out my basement and make it into the studio that we're talking about.
There you go. Yep. But yeah, I can't think of any other logistic reasons than that. So people, we're just recognizing, but we're not talking about that. And then technology and that was the other thing. We got distracted. The standalone schools, right? So we had some inertia to keep going and keep it going, and some reasons, vested interest to keep it going in the way that you would for a standalone school that you wouldn't if it was an add-on hobby or add-on interest. Put it that way.
There you go. So if we want to put a personal element into this, here's the list, including the personal element. 1, technology wasn't there. We weren't as organized as people would think we were.
Mm-hmm.
2, and the big one, Remy had a habit of trusting a lot of the wrong people.
That's back to the people thing, yeah.
Okay. So a will that was put in place was never put in play.
Right.
So.
Well, we even talked about the organization one. You just brought that up. Weren't as organized as people thought. We had another show on that where it was, hey, was IMF back when Remy was alive? Was it an organization, or was just Remy's personal brand? And remember, it's a little bit of both, which is not the same as a vested, well-run, well-oiled organization, which we didn't have.
Remy tried. A lot of people said they could do stuff. Listen, here's the thing. Martial artists have a lot of delusions of grandeur out there. We think we can do things we can't.
Right.
And if all of a sudden I'll do this for you, Remy, then my school starts taking a hit because I have to put more time into it. What do I put on the back burner? Remy's organization.
Right.
Okay. Here's a personal element which is not a political element. What percentage of Remy students outside the Philippines? Well, I mean, he didn't even have no. What percentage of Remy students in the Western world do you think prioritize modern Arnis as their primary art?
Hardly anybody. I think some
round to full digits.
Full digits. So
yeah.
Maybe 5% at the most.
You think that many, huh?
It could be 1%, somewhere in there.
I always call myself the modernist 1%ers, but then I found the biker thing.
Right.
Can't wear that.
So I'll say 1 to 5%, because I do know there was several people that prioritized it as a primary art, right? So maybe they're too committed art. So for me, like I had Arnis and I had Kung Fu, and then Tai Chi was not an add-on, but it was
okay. How many schools do you think prioritized it?
Like that?
Still.
People. Excuse me? Or people?
People or schools?
I'm thinking at the most 5% if you include what I just said.
Well, no, how many numbers? Give me an actual number.
Gosh. I think I'd be guessing to guess that. It would be
15 clubs?
Not even. Yeah.
So it's not even 1%. I mean, listen, right. Remy was freaking global.
True.
I mean, it would be less than 1 percentile. I mean, we had 11 clubs in Buffalo.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking, well, okay. So again, using the definition that I made, it might be 15, it might be 30, but it's certainly no more than that. And it could be a lot less.
And Remy had a lot more people than that.
He certainly did. Yes.
Okay. So, we had probably 20 schools that offered Arnis in one level or another in New York State.
Okay.
That's just one state. Michigan had another 15 or 20.
Right.
Now, most of those were second. Actually, I only know of one that did as a primary art. Or two. That would be the Flint group, where Rich came from, which is 10, 20 people, and then Rocky.
Right. And in Texas, you had probably about 20 schools doing modern East, but about, I want to say, I was going to say I might be the only one who was
Thank you.
equal time. There's
Yeah.
others that had it as, add-on programs, but it was not equal time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So that was probably the biggest hit that we had, because people didn't prioritize Remy's art.
Yep.
That's why in 99, 98, I wrote down the World Modern Race Alliance, because I had nothing to fall back upon.
So no dedicated schools, and in this case, one might argue that the emphasis on art within your art could have hurt the inertia to be able to carry it forward on its own.
Yeah. So I would go to the Michigan Summer Camp, which would have up to 100 participants there, or if not more. It was the biggest and the longest running camp. I was the only one that had a dedicated school. Now, Chuck probably had a dedicated program. Kenny Smith went there. He was a big issue school and did Arnis. Okay. And both of them got grandmasterships in Ryukyu Kempo, which means obviously they can't be devoting it all to modern, because they wouldn't have been able to do that unless they paid for rank. I'm not saying they paid for rank. What I'm saying is that how would you be able to be a grandmaster in these two arts if you weren't putting time in said two arts, right?
Right.
I'm wiping off my screen.
I see.
So, like, I didn't meet any Arnis schools. Okay, the Arnis school I met in Detroit, or at the Michigan Summer Camp, was Rocky.
Okay.
Everyone I met, so it was Rocky, John Bryant, and myself. I don't know of anybody else.
The Flint group is not full time, but they were dedicated, right?
They were dedicated. They didn't start. I mean, the heads of it didn't start, but they worked their way over.
Dedicated program or standalone program.
Dedicated program.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you say a combination of schools and dedicated program, there's 4 right there.
Right.
Okay. And
then if you add into the idea of a top priority, a real top priority, then yeah, it still doesn't get you a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you did 50. You trained them both. You trained both arts and gave both arts the proper respect.
I had 2 clubs for Kung Fu and I had 2 clubs for Arnis, and I did that.
So, yeah. So, I mean, and that's what we're talking about. We're not talking, we're trying to put things in a proper perspective. So now you look at Filipino martial arts as a whole. How many times do you see people who do Filipino martial arts and then they're told to do their open hand combatives on their own?
It depends on the FMA, but yes, often.
I mean, okay, if you're going to do Serrata, I have yet to see anyone teach anything open-handed in Serrata. I haven't seen anyone do OGE or Bahalana unarmed. We know Balintawak, it's all weapon.
Right. Visayan, whatever that, Corto Cadena, Saniupad stuff, I believe, is not empty-handed.
But how big is that?
Not very, but I mean, those that love it,
right.
And I understand. Right. It's fun. Yeah.
So
West Coast stuff.
Yeah.
Lightning has empty hand, I believe, doesn't it?
Does it? I'm not sure.
I think so.
Oh yeah, I've got a full-time school.
Well, not right now. You're not teaching.
You slacker. Right now.
You slacker.
Let me.
Yeah, we both still teach. You have a dedicated school and you're teaching full time. That's your job.
This is what I do for a living.
Yep.
Okay, here we go. There we go. I got Datu Lapu Lapu right there. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Can you see my cursor isn't showing up?
I can't see your cursor. He's in New York State, Buffalo area.
Yeah, where are you from, Mr. 09 Learning? That is an actual picture from my school.
Yep.
The rest is stock footage. Junior Arnis program. There you go. I have Market Muscle does my website for me. They're really good at doing their thing.
Kevin was getting me. I need to modernize my Modernist website. Oh, you're in Virginia. I'm in Virginia.
Oh yeah. What part of Virginia are you in?
Yeah. So just so you know, I'm in Northern Virginia near DC. But 09 Learning. Yeah. Where are you at?
Do you want to take that?
I really don't want to, but
well, okay. I'm more than happy to, but
right. So yeah, for a while, Marpio and Remy Jr. were doing some things. I'm not sure how active they are anymore, but I can tell you that I would recommend other people to learn Remy's art. Not saying anything about how good Remy Jr. is, but he did not have much time with his father, and that was as a little boy.
He's in Richmond.
So not my favorite, not my cup of tea, but there's plenty of good modernist people out there. In Richmond, I know some Blintwalk people, but I don't know any modern people out there.
So I will say it. Well, actually, I'll go the easy route. Remy's will that wasn't executed.
There you go.
In the will, Remy's kids are in the will to inherit the estate.
For the family stuff and personal stuff.
And his students, myself included, were listed in the will to take over the art.
Yes.
His kids were not supposed to be part of the art.
Right.
Now, he had asked me to teach his children if something ever happened to him. And that's when Paul O'Grady and Kevin Black and myself were in Detroit. That was actually when Remy taught a seminar over at Dino Kane's. And it was a doubleheader. It was Remy teaching Arnis and Dan Anderson teaching sport karate. And that's actually when Dan said he was retired. Paul Jonios was there. Well, from teaching Arnis, that was. Because he's the one that asked the question.
I remember Remy asked me he introduced me to someone as his real nephew. And he asked me to teach him there at one of the things. So I worked with him quite a lot. I was very honored to do that. That was pretty cool.
Are you still there? I'm assuming he's talking to you.
Could be. I am. Yes, I am in Northern Virginia near DC, and I teach on weekends in the park every Sunday for a couple hours.
Is Richmond near you?
Not really. It's a haul. However, there are people that come up from Richmond for my.
Richmond's where the racetrack is.
Yeah, Richmond. But there are people from Richmond that come up to my gatherings in the fall and spring every once in a while.
Oh yeah,
the multi-style, larger FMA community, right? Type stuff.
I've taught down there once.
Okay.
Shield martial arts.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
That's not
bad. Yeah, I mean, and these are also things that led into making things a little more difficult because with the family, it definitely confused people.
It really did, yes.
And that's probably just the best way to go with this. I'm like, we're switching things up. Yeah. So, yeah. And I think there we go. We just go there. If you if you look at Ty's name here, kungfu.cc/Arnis, you can get information on him down there.
And that's the website I need to modernize.
There you go. Yeah.
The information's there, but yes. Hey, I updated the text at least.
Okay, we can go with that.
Hand-coded, everyone. Way back in the 90s when I first was one of, like I said, the two modernist websites out there.
Hey, listen, it used to be the top on Google at one time.
Yep, it did. I was doing my hand jamming my SEO back before it was a thing. Now that's much more difficult.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
Hey man.
WordPress is free, my friend.
I like to hand code it, so I'll have to catch up on the modern stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm presenting a nostalgic look.
It's you do Dreamweaver?
I don't like to use any GUIs. I like to hand code.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's all beyond me. So.
Well, back in the day, you just inserted tags. So now you'd have to do fancier stuff. But I'll figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, the info's out there and it's accurate. So yeah.
Oh, Rich has something to say.
He's bagging on me too.
Yeah. Well, no.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, just throw. Dominic, I put that post up for the camp, and Dominic liked it.
Oh, good.
I was very pleased with it. It came off. It was a nice write up.
Yeah, well, like you said, like you said, getting the ability to talk things through on the show and then write them down in a more consumable way after you've organized your thoughts, I think has been a good thing. So,
yeah, I really do enjoy the show because it's helped me really get my stuff together.
Well, yeah, this ends up being the visceral kind of open kimono type stuff, and the other one is the more public face, I think. So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and like I said, and as we'll always say, we welcome anyone that wants to be on the show.
We've had a lot of people that aren't even in the WMA come on the show, and or some even that aren't even in Modern East, but come on the show and discuss things.
Yes, we're about promoting all of FMA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that we are a positive influence on the community. Yeah, so, but we'll see how that goes. So, I lost connection.
Yeah. That's why he was saying, well, they were saying, are you still there? That's probably why.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're here. We're here. Yeah. So, So listen, the biggest thing was technology. There wasn't a clear line of success. I mean, listen,
technology,
even if the will was executed, it still would have went sideways.
Right. But technology, organization, and dedicated schools.
I think the latter was probably the most damaging.
I think that was certainly the most unappreciated about how damaging it is. Yes, because that inertia is huge. If you have a vested interest to keep your school going, that makes you step up. If you don't have that, because it's not the thing that's keeping your school going, you got other priorities when things hit the fan and when you don't have somebody you can go to.
Okay. Well, here's okay.
There you go. You're gonna bring a rubber chicken. If the rubber chicken can talk about FMA, that'd be fine.
Okay. And Steve, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you, sir. A little bit of tough love sometimes, right? So currently nobody is in charge of Modern East. There's no one single universally recognized person or body in charge of Modern East. Is that the question? Because that's the answer. That's one way to answer that question that I know of.
Here's what I'll say. We are I'm head of the World Modern East Alliance. That's the organization I formed when it went sideways based on things that I knew what Remy wanted for me and what was happening with the organization. I left the organization. I didn't leave Remy. I resigned from the organization. The will was never executed. So what Remy wanted never happened. We are now the world's largest non-government sponsored modern Arnis organization. We have over 26 schools. We are in multiple continents, and we are growing all the time. So,
and we have a curriculum, we have paths, we have opportunities for events, and we encourage our members to get out there and do things as well.
Now, I will say this, and I'm more than happy to back this up, but with facts. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone else has the experience, the knowledge, and stuff that I have for Remy's art. Because we've talked about this, where I've put 1,800 hours plus with him, full-time school. Now, here's the thing, and this someone made a comment about this recently, and I want to explain myself because it wasn't an interactive conversation. They just made a comment elsewhere. So I say, well, what do you mean? He's trying to say so-and-so isn't good because he doesn't have a school? And you go, because I have a full-time school, this is my job. I put all my time into Remy's art. Now, part of it is marketing the art. I'll give you that.
Sure.
Managing stuff like that. But the thing here is morning, noon, and night. This is how I put food on the table. Teaching Remy's art.
Right.
I have 20 plus classes a week that I'm working on. I am constantly refining curriculum. I will challenge anyone to put their curriculum out there and compare it to ours. I'm not saying that we're the best, but we're sure as hell aren't the worst. And it's a product that can not product. It is a curriculum that can be replicated by people on top. We've got an online university that supports it. And I'm constantly working on not only developing the skills of my people, but my own. Because if we're not learning, we're dying.
Right. Well, I'm going to actually answer that question you said before. Are you saying that if you're not teaching, you're not good? You don't understand the art well enough? I'm going to say that if you are not teaching, you do not understand the art well enough. Bottom line. Because the single best thing that both of my teachers did in both of my arts was encourage me to teach, set up some clubs, and get out there and do it. And I will tell you, that was the most understanding I gained and the most ability I got in having to teach the art that I cared about on a daily basis and try to get people from the ground up better than me. Do that, and then you're going to have some more insights that you would have never had if you didn't teach. That's my rant.
Yeah, the thing I would say, because we talked about well, when we're looking at this, how many people are actually doing Remy's art?
Mm-hmm.
That would be the question. You know, a lot of people think they're doing Remy's art, but I don't really think they're. And now this is where this is the controversial side of Tim Hartman.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think a lot of people are doing what Remy was teaching.
They're doing what they got out of him teaching them.
Go back to a mixed drink.
Right.
Okay. How many things can you make with rum?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, Remy was the rum, and then you can blend it with all these stuff. So all the other arts were all the things you could blend with rum. Mm-hmm. All the different drinks you can make. What happens when we run out of rum? We represent the rum. Mm-hmm. That's what our group does. We try to teach what Remy was teaching, not the synthesis that you could come up with blending it with another art.
Right.
Someone has to have as close to the untainted DNA sample as possible. But it's going to be tainted no matter what. Someone's always going to put their own twist on it.
Right.
I'm not going to say I'm pure. What I'm going to say is that I'm probably the most accurate when it comes to an organization. We're probably the most accurate when it comes to representing what Remy taught.
The goal is to be as true as possible to what Remy taught, not what you could get out of his teachings, because we leave that up to you.
And it's not to say we can't evolve, because we're evolving.
Yep.
But staying true to the core principles.
Well, and we've used this example before too, and so this is a good time to bring up Riddell, right? Riddell trained on Remy in the Philippines before Remy left, and I believe that Riddell's evolution as he progressed and did stuff after Remy was gone from his day-to-day experience is a really good, true to form kind of evolution of what he got from Remy. I like it. It feels right, but that's just my bias. But I mean, it can be done, right? You can go off in La La Land, or you can be keep that touchstone in mind. The touchstone being, what were the lessons and what were the intents of the person who made the style?
Yeah. And yeah, so well, let's see here. Yeah, so that's it right there. And like I said, I don't want to trash talk anybody because that's not what I'm trying to do. I mean, Remy had a lot of talented students. People, I mean, Ron Van Browning, amazing grandmaster in his own thing, blends Remy's art into what he's doing. But when he used to run a school, I was the guy who would host because he would defer to me as far as teaching Remy's art as close to what Remy was doing. Ron could do Remy's art, but he used it to enhance what he was already doing. He wasn't trying to do it as a primary, nor was he trying to sit there and say, I'm one of Remy's guys. He was his own man. So and we need all of that. But all right, hold on one moment.
Yep. So I didn't hear any comments on my rant, but I really do believe that was the best thing Remy ever had me do. Is you will start a club at A&M. Okay, I guess I will, and I did my best. And you know what? I had to understand what he was doing and why he was doing it, because I had to teach people the same things, because I was using his material and the way he taught and the way he delivered. And his lessons and his intents the best if I could understand them. And when then I went back to see him again and again, I was able to refine that and get better. So I would say that it developed me both as a better practitioner, better teacher, and also a better attendee, because I had to teach it. I knew I was going to teach it, and that made me take better notes, made me look for things differently, right? So there may be something I naturally can do. Why can I do that? Why did I see what am I missing here that seems natural to me, but other people aren't getting, et cetera, et cetera. So I think teaching is super important to understanding an art. Aaron, many people such as myself were introduced to Arnis in the 80s through hybrid systems. I personally have continued to teach and study based what I have continued to study. And you should, yeah. 80s, nice. That's right. I forgot about that. Oh, you're mutated. Dimprenko.
Dean. Oh, here we go.
Rich. I'll read that because it's long.
Yeah.
Tabating. He's not going to throw rocks at me this time. I agree that one needs to teach to learn further to truly understand who or how to communicate the art. Yes, one can be a great sparring person or fighter or demonstrator. I'll even add for you. Yet it could be a talent and instinct. And the teaching makes one dissect and explain the techniques. And it lets you pass on the art, right? Excellent. Thanks for agreeing with me, Rich. The check is in the mail. Oh, not the mail. It's a direct transfer because we have technology now.
There you go. And there you go.
It's a link to the earlier part of the discussion.
Yeah, and LOL. Yeah, and listen, like, once again, so and I'm only talking about that because of Mr. Learning who's making those comments,
I'm more personally connected to him, so I call him 09.
You know him?
No, I don't. Making a bad joke.
Okay. So I mean, listen, I mean, I've got no skin in the game when it comes to this kind of stuff. Actually wondering who. Nope.
And you saw Dean Prenko came on, right?
Yeah, I saw Dean.
Okay, good.
Hey, Dean, we got to talk. I'm in town, but Thursday morning I leave. We're supposed to follow up after he taught down in at Alex's place.
Oh yeah.
Any updates on Alex?
I saw that he was back home,
Oh,
so
good. Good.
must be on the mend. But that's horrible.
Yeah.
So all thoughts and love go out to Alex. Anybody who knows him, you should look into him and support him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, tomorrow works. Yep. I just have a class at noon. The rest of the day I'm free up until 5:00. And then I leave for Orlando on Saturday or Thursday morning. Some crazy hour in the morning. Wait a minute. Good. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, no, but I think that was the biggest. I mean, listen. Okay, Remy dying is no different than anyone else dying. The same thing happened with Ed Parker.
Mhm.
Ed Parker's system went on because there was dedicated schools. They had even less technology than we had, but they kept it going because there was the quantity of dedicated schools.
Yep. And Parker
That was the
Bruce
biggest.
Lee.
Yeah.
And the old masters too, right?
Yeah.
Every one of them will pass, and everybody leaves a little hole, and then people swoop in, help out, whatever you want to talk about it. But with the right tools in place, they make it work, even with the people side of things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Flint group,
there you go.
Another person. Hey, Jeff.
So, and like I said, we're not trying to this, we've been talking about this stuff, and a lot of times we start talking bullshit about somebody, or someone makes a comment and I call bullshit on all this other stuff. But there was stuff that people contributed to, but the biggest challenge probably was the lack of technology. And the next piece would have been Remy trusted people that he shouldn't have, which was normal for Remy. People didn't.
That probably goes into the organization piece too, right? Because
yeah.
Hey, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
And then the dedicated schools. I think that was huge. I think that people forget about that being a contributing factor.
Because there's a lot of people who did modern Arnis.
Yep.
But not a lot of people did it as a primary.
Yep.
Very, very small percentile. There you go. Well, I've done that in good faith, far as trust. Yep.
I usually start out with tons of trust because I don't really care, and then if you ruin that, that's on you, and you don't come back from that.
But I mean, you also gotta understand. I mean, the thing here is, the funny thing is, a lot of our shows are tying into each other.
Yep.
And unless you listen, because once again, Remy was a vagabond. He lived out of a suitcase, so he trusted other people to help him because he didn't have the means to do it himself.
Or he would just call up and say, "Hey, Tim, pick me up from the airport."
Yeah. Yeah, I never got the laundry call. You'll do my laundry.
There you go.
But I have gone to the post office to mail out his dental records.
So now I know that Dean agrees with me. So don't blow Dean's trust because he agrees with me. He'll do the same thing.
I wouldn't trust him because he wants your spot on the show.
Oh, that's true.
He wants to take your spot.
That's okay. He could do that.
Okay, so guys, let's just talk about what's going on in the future because we're going to be taking this is a rough time for us because we've got a lot of things going on.
And I'm at my wit's end with work.
So next week we're not doing the show. The week after, we're not doing a show. The week after, we're still not doing the show. We got 3 weeks off.
That'll teach them. We don't do enough episodes.
Yeah. So we're going to do a show on the 24th of July.
So a month then. Okay.
Yeah.
4 weeks. 4 weeks.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4. So, and the topic is going to be what was meant when Remy would talk about the art within your art. Yeah, Dean, don't you wish you could have that much time off?
That's right.
So they talk about it all. I hear this all the time, the art within your art. And I hear a lot of people licensing saying, oh, well, I can do this because it's the art within my art, blah, 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 blah. But I don't think people really understood what the art within your art meant or where the rubber met the road with that.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that. May not be.
Well, and I mean, it was a catchphrase.
It was a catchphrase. It was, yeah. It was a catch. It was an advertising motto.
Yeah, exactly. Which means that you should take it in that light.
Actually looking for another interviewer. Well, good luck with that. BG Ty, when is your seminar coming up?
Oh, well.
We were talking about that earlier, too.
Yes. Here, I will post a link.
Don't give it away.
I will post a link.
Oh, is that for this week? Oh, yeah, the camp this weekend. Yeah.
So
if you're in Delaware, the camp, the open portion of the camp is going to be at Cornerstone Martial Arts.
yes. Oh, but he's not on Facebook, so I don't know what to.
Voice. Good evening to all. Voice in the crowd. As we're about to take off.
Right. Voice in the crowd.
Yeah, go right there.
That's all of them in general because I don't know which one you're talking about. But if it's this weekend one, that is it's only on Facebook, so I don't.
Actually, I have it on the org site too, but I don't have all the contact details. Why don't you, I
can get there.
I was gonna say, why don't you do you want me to put should I put your email in there?
Good. The kungfu.cc one.
It's
also on the website there. My email's on there.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna update this right now. I'm gonna update the website. This is how we do things, just like we did on the meeting yesterday. Of course, now my internet is lagging.
Yeah, mine is doing something weird too. There we are. Wow. There we are.
Okay, I'm gonna get into here.
Events. I'm gonna get there. There we are.
Are you going to my website or are you going to yours?
I already gave the one that I have, so I'm doing you WMM Arnis events. There you go. Right. So if you pop that one up for him, then he'll see that because he's on YouTube.
Okay, yeah. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put an email in there because it's not set up yet. But I'm going to do this edit event. I can do this as we're talking, so then your email doesn't.
It's because we have the technology, right?
Because we have technology.
There you go.
Organizer. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put a link on there. Okay. Mail to this. Okay, what is your email address?
Hi. At kungfu.cc.
It's I or Ty?
Ty at kungfu.cc, yeah.
Ty at.
I try to put the easy button.
Kungfu.cc. Apply.
All right.
And then edit. I'll do this to mail to. Open in a new tab. Update and update now. So now there's an email link in the event. Okay, so I'll share this for those who are Romeo, how you doing? So right there it says, you guys see that?
Nope.
The cursor right there. I
see yeah, but we can't read it, or I can't read it.
It just says email. Click on that window, and that'll open up an email for you.
All right.
So
that'll teach it. There's a nice flyer, but unfortunately, we only posted it on the Facebook because we only use old people technology, evidently.
yeah.
Again, Kevin was pointing out that we need to start using the younger kids' technology because they don't like YouTube's or not. They don't like Facebook's.
I got hey, Ty Bottings. It brings back memories.
That's right.
Hey, I put a bunch of stuff on Instagram. Listen.
Yeah, when we post to Facebook, I thought it automatically goes to Instagram, doesn't it?
No.
Oh, okay. It used to.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, you got to use your phone to do that.
Ah, okay.
So I do IG and like all my and actually sometimes like these new posts I've been doing these writing these articles. Some of them are too big for Instagram.
Right.
So here's the problem, guys. Instagram is limiting.
That's all that certain people can handle.
Yeah, because they don't want interactive,
I'm being a grumbly old man, guys. I know it surprises you.
Yeah. So well, like down in Brazil, everyone was on IG. So, but I'm like, dudes, if you want everyone to understand, you need to listen. You need to cast a line in every pond, or you put it out there, and we definitely are putting more and more stuff on IG. But I need to put more announcements on Instagram because I don't have the problem here is Instagram doesn't have a seminar listing section.
No, and also is it only phone? Something's only phone.
You can use it. I think Snapchat's only phone.
Ah, okay.
I listen, here's the thing. Here's what everyone's got to remember. It all has to go to a website sooner or later.
Yep.
It's all a funnel to a website because all these things may disappear or become unpopular.
Yep.
So Facebook was it. IG is there, Twitter, all these things, and it should lead you to a website. Everything we have leads us to the worldmodernist.com website.
Yep.
Or OnlyFans.
There you go.
All right. So, we got a month off, buddy.
Nice.
Although we'll talk before then. So there's a lot of things going on. Like I said, Ty's got the camp this weekend down in Delaware. I'll be at the U.S. Open and MayaCon in Orlando. I'll get back on Monday night, and Wednesday I fly off to Austria for the Kombatan Super Camp and and European Championships. Come back to that. I'll be home for a while. So if people need to get a hold of me, and listen, you can always get a hold of me.
Right.
You can't get a hold of me. You're not trying. I was in Brazil taking phone calls from my insurance company. And I'm looking at it. Enjoy the time off. There you go. Thank you. I'm looking right now. I've got my hybrid seminar coming up on the 15th. But after I get back from Europe, Austria. I'm going to be home until August 9th. Then I go to England.
Nice.
And then once again, I'm back until mid-September. I go to the gathering. Actually, I'm going to California for a few things. Got a few seminars out there. Instructors camp coming up at the end of September.
Yep.
Barbados, Mass.
That reminds me, I got to put together my fall flame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
I knew you were saying.
The Delaware camp is in November. Me coming down. The winter camp. Yeah, the winter camp. And then there's a whole bunch of things. All right. Well, listen. You got anything else you're promoting?
Nope, just those two things.
All right.
And as always, still check out both of our YouTubes. We got plenty of material out there. We don't just rant and rave.
Yeah. North Cali.
Nice.
Bring back sourdough.
Nice.
Hey, voice of the crowd, where are you from? Do we know you?
Seems like. I don't know, but it seems like it.
Okay. So, Yeah. And then I'll be at Terrell's on the December 9th. Terrell and I will be doing a double hit, Smoking Sticks, Das, and Arnis.
Right.
For the plants. Okay. All right. Well, listen, it's always a pleasure, and I love doing things here with my co-host, PG Ty. We were having like a solid 25 people listening through the show. Do you see that counter up in the upper left hand corner?
No, I don't get that.
Okay. So so we had like 25 people, pretty rock solid. Listen, the personality nonsense was a minor portion of this. The biggest thing, dedicated schools and lack of technology. Those are probably the biggest things, because as we talked before, there really wasn't much of there wasn't an organization like there is today. Yep. There wasn't a hub with contact information like we have today.
Yep.
If it would have happened today, I guarantee you, if we had today's technology back then, we'd be much stronger today.
Yeah. For one, I wouldn't have been a hermit. I would have been off and doing something else.
Yeah.
Doing this, but a little bit more integrated, because I would have found some place to go.
Because at the end of the day, we could have networked with each other.
Yep.
Okay. We could have easily gotten a hold. What do I do now? When your cell phones today are more powerful than the desktops we had back then, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. I remember now, Facebook is huge in the Philippines, absolutely huge in the Philippines. But I remember talking to people in internet cafes before they got cell phones, and then they found Wi-Fi hotspots.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
it's actually, it's not that long ago. So with computers, 1 megahertz processors. Now there are multiple gigahertz processors on your phone.
On our phone.
Yes. Crazy.
There we go.
And cameras and everything else. Yep.
Okay. So, and listen, if you got any requests, we've got to reach out. I haven't heard back. Eric is supposed to try to hook us up with Herb Blue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because when I have Mr. Blue on there, another old school guy.
Nice.
Talked about having him on the 31st, I think it is. No confirmation. It's not locked in. We are, speaking of dedicated schools, we are going to be having a series of the dedicated programs and schools out there. Some of the challenges, we're going to reach out with the World Arnis Alliance, because we've got those programs here. So we're going to talk about some of the Canadian guys, and then we'll go through the Americans, and where the art is taught enough to learn it by itself. Not as it, then you can choose to do with it what you want. But we'll go into there. All right, listen, it's always a pleasure to be here and have people get the feedback from everybody. And like I said at the beginning of the show, this has been great for me to voice and to maybe vent a little and to get my thoughts, because definitely you guys have inspired me to talk about things. If you haven't seen the posts I've been putting on Facebook and Instagram about seniority, what it takes to be a grandmaster, and all this other stuff. I'm not saying like as the expert, just methodologies. A lot of that has to do with you guys interacting with us, and other people. Ty's got to put up with my shit anyways, but listen, it's always a pleasure to talk about this stuff. And anytime I can be with my friend here, this is a great time. And we also appreciate our families that put up with us to let us do this and take time away from our wives and family to do all this stuff. Although, that one member of my family doesn't put up with it at all, because he's always barking when I'm on the show.
Right. This is true.
My baby girl's upstairs. My boy. Yeah. So I'm henpecked. Usually you're henpecked by a significant other. Mine's by my 4-legged child. Nice. All right. So we good, Ty?
I'm good. Yeah. I don't got anything else.
Well, thanks for tuning in. everybody,
Definitely.
please stay safe and stay sane. This is Dr. Tim.
And PG Ty. Thanks, everyone.
All right, talk to y'all later.